Welcome, Canada. And, of course, lawyers suing me on behalf of whatever Muslim Brotherhood front group is upset with whatever I said at whatever point of time. That's probably completely true that you'll never refute, but still drag me into court anyway to waste everyone's time. You are the real MVP. So, for anyone who cares and is watching the show not to sue me, we have a great episode for you tonight. It's Trudeau's Orwellian vision of Canada. On Democracy Day, we do everything anti-democratic that we could possibly think of. We have to get into that. Also, the Abrahamic Accords. Trump is, now this is his third historic peace deal. We have Kosovo, Serbia, Israel, UAE, Israel, Bahrain, and according to Donald Trump, 9 more countries that might sign on to this peace deal. That's huge news. We're going to get back to our roots here and go into the modern past. So we'll do past, present, and future sort of global geopolitics as and how Trump, I don't want to say changed the game, but how him acting differently, definitely than Obama, and past administrations has sort of reshifted the game in the Middle East. We'll do that. We also have Black Lives Matter, one of my favorite organizations in Canada, and how they'll help contribute to the destruction of Western civilization, and how they're hurting children with stupid ideas. And I just want to play a video for you coming from Canada. We'll do that later. And many, many other things. We have Trump coming back into the fold. He's now passed Biden in the polls. We'll explain why burning down people's houses is not a way to get them to vote for you. And of course, the United Nations decides who should be in charge of the General Assembly. How about the Muslim Brotherhood government of Egypt? I mean, we got a lot of, genocide denial, human rights abuses, anti-free speech stuff. Who better to lead the UN than an Islamist who denies a genocide? All right. Now, first, I want to get into the glorious leader, Justin Trudeau. As we all know, I love Trudeau. You love Trudeau. That's why you're here. Who would be at this place if we didn't love the glorious leader, how handsome he is? Now, I was lazy yesterday. I had been in my own little world, doing my own little legal battles till Monday. By the way, today's show is sponsored by NotSuingDaniel.com. NotSuingDaniel.com, a great way to live your life. Stop suing me, please. Now, after Monday, which went great, we can talk about it later when that becomes public, I decided time to get back into the game. It's time to start doing the news again, commentary, whatever it is I do, who knows. I figured, let's be lazy and let's just start with what, left-wing American bloggers do and just look at the president's Twitter feed. So pull up the Prime Minister's Twitter feed from yesterday on International Democracy Day. Here we have the tweets. I'm just looking at this. International Democracy Day for Justin Trudeau. Right? What could be wrong here? And I realized, you know what? I could do this. I can make fun of this. It's pretty easy, right? He's talking about Democracy Day. He's prorogued Parliament. That's it. That's my journalist integrity. If the American mainstream news media is allowed to do this and call it journalism, hell, I can do this and call it journalism for a day. I deserve a day off. Beers, pina coladas, who knows? But then I realized, you know what? Let's do 2 minutes maybe of actual work. Let's do 2 minutes of actual work. And let's click on the link and the press statement and just go through Justin Trudeau's statement on International Day of Democracy. Now, by the way, I have to define this for people who don't understand. What democracy is where citizens' votes matter. So citizens' votes and actually have power within a country. So it's where you democratically elect your leaders, and there's a balance of power between the citizenry and the government. This is a democracy. Now, the reason I say that is maybe people within the Liberal government are watching, and again, maybe lawyers paid by the Muslim Brotherhood. Maybe they're doing it pro bono for the Muslim Brotherhood. Who knows? But they might need an explanation on what democracy is, because when you hear what Justin Trudeau is proposing for Democracy Day, if you understand what democracy is, you'll be really confused. So, the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, today issued the following statement on International Day of Democracy. Today, we join with our international partners to celebrate International Day of Democracy. We recognize the respect for freedoms, human rights, and the rule of law are essential for democracy to thrive, except the Prime Minister, Since Lavalin. We also take this opportunity to remind ourselves of our shared responsibility to protect and promote democratic values, which is why Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called out the Islamic Republic of Iran for the murder of Navid Afektari. Oh wait, no, he didn't do any of that. Never mind. Iran, please keep murdering protesters because apparently that doesn't violate democratic values. So if you have a popular wrestler in your country and he's protesting for freedom and democracy, remember that's undemocratic and hang him. In secret, no trials. Trials are anti-democratic. Okay. And make sure to torture him and force a confession out of him too, because Justin Trudeau probably think that's great. And by the way, Justin Trudeau's brother, Sasha, used to make propaganda videos for the Islamic Republic of Iran, but I'm sure that has nothing to do with anything, considering he's not an advisor to Justin Trudeau. Oh wait, he's an advisor to Justin Trudeau. Okay, this thing gets better. This year's theme, COVID-19, a spotlight on democracy. Because we know how much democracy has been respected during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's not like every government ever has tried to pass an authoritarian bill that would give them unlimited power for unlimited amounts of time. Oh wait, that's exactly what happened. So we had Justin Trudeau to do that. We had Doug Ford with Bill 195. Belinda Carl said no. He's like, get out of here because I'm a dictator. But that was everyone's leader right now. So we all know how much democracy has been promoted, especially by Justin Trudeau, during the COVID-19. Highlights of the impact of the pandemic on the state of democracy around the world, from enabling the free flow of information to ensuring transparency and accountability, democracy has an important role in helping us confront the global pandemic. Okay. We're going to read that part again because there's really nothing wrong with it. It's just hilarious, and it sets up the rest of this thing. Enabling the free flow of information to ensuring transparency and accountability, democracy has an important role in playing the global... Remember, this is Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau believes in transparency, free flow of information, okay, and accountability. This is the guy who accepts the findings of the SNC-Lavalin report, but then disagrees with all of them and was not punished for it. So, you know, laugh at that. But here's where we get to the Orwellian nonsense. Oh, my favorite part of every part of this liberal government, the Orwellian nonsense. What would we be without it? To continue the fight against disinformation and hate speech. That's right, we've gone from the pandemic and democracy to disinformation and hate speech. We want to, guys, this is how we protect the free flow of information, with fighting disinformation and hate speech. Oh boy. The government of Canada is harnessing the tools at its disposal to mitigate these actions online, including through the Digital Citizen Initiative, which was launched in 2019. Nothing says free flow of information like fighting hate speech online with new laws set out by your favorite government. Okay, this initiative supports democracy and social initiatives. Democracy and social cohesion in Canada by promoting an information ecosystem that is trusted, diverse, safe, and free from disinformation and illegal content. What the heck? Why did no one pick up, what is illegal content? We have the government, we have the literal prime minister, the head of this government, saying in order to enable the free flow of information, we will have information free of illegal content. And what is that? Like, what does that mean? Is that like pedophilia? Is that the movie Cuties? Will that no longer be reported on? But it seems like pedophilia is pretty okay with the left these days. So I'm assuming illegal content does not include pedophilia. Okay, put that away. Like, people actually getting murdered? Like, you know, ISIS executions? Maybe that's illegal content. Free from disinformation. Who decides disinformation? We're going to get to there soon. What's the illegal content? Do we need a license to report the news? Like the Heritage Minister said a couple months ago? Please fill me in on this Orwellian nonsense. The initiative also builds on citizens' resilience to online disinformation through third-party civic news and digital media literacy activities and programs to equip Canadians with tools and skills they need to critically assess information online. Okay, so we're going to have a third-party independent panel. The problem is the media under Justin Trudeau was given $600 million, which means all the mainstream media outlets are no longer independent. So who's this panel? Who's the third-party panel? Is it me? Do I get to do it? Can I be the third party? I'll do it for free. I won't even need $600 million. Maybe just $6. Give me $6. I'll be on this panel. Don't worry, guys. We're going to promote democracy by regulating the media, calling it an independent third party, then having it say what content can and can't be aired. Like, it's pretty obvious what they're doing here in the free speech thing. They just don't want people to push a contrary narrative to what they're doing on COVID-19. And I'm not one of those people who's saying coronavirus isn't real, right? Corona's been around for a long time. It's a variant of the flu, right? A new variant came along, right? Apparently, if you're a Chinese virologist and you come on TV and you say that it was actually used by the CCP and created in a lab, an opinion that many people have held, the lab leak hypothesis, you can't say that. Now, I believe the lawsuit being filed against the CBC right now is the CBC being government-owned, and now every other major media outlet being government-owned by a third individual party of government officials or something. I can't even keep up with the lies that the Trudeau government's telling. But the CBC does have a legal obligation on political issues to air both sides, right? They should air a counter-narrative to the COVID-19 stuff. They don't. This is soon to be illegal content. But don't worry, this is how we promote democracy, guys. This is how Justin Trudeau promotes democracy, by taking away your right to say things. Oh boy. All right. Now it gets better. Remember, we're talking about democracy, people. Canada also recognizes democracy's place at the heart of our international system and the need to strengthen democratic institutions around the world to promote peace and stability. That's why we're committed to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development to help create a more equitable, prosperous, and secure world for future generations. That's right, in order to promote democracy, we're giving up sovereignty to the United Nations, an unelected set of bureaucrats who will make decisions for Canadian citizens. Again, this is why I had to define democracy before we went into this pro-democratic thing, because if you just didn't know what democracy was, and you were told Canada was a democratic country, allegedly, and you were told Justin Trudeau is the leader of said country, and then you read this statement, you would probably think that the USSR was a democratic institution. Let's just read this and we'll go back into the UN, because we have so much to say. We are investigating and promote and protect democracy as well as media, press freedoms worldwide. Again, press freedoms. Oh, they're so on the... By press freedoms, we mean licensed press freedoms. And we're going to make sure that everyone says what we want them to, but has the freedom to say what we want them to. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. By supporting electoral processes, reforming democratic practices, and reforming democratic practices. By they're saying this thing is reform them to be non-democratic. And strengthening civic engagement. Strengthening civic engagement. I wonder if that means like looting and burning things down in honor of whoever got killed resisting arrest that day. Canada stands with the people around the world protesting peacefully, including recently Belarus, Hong Kong, Venezuela, and Lebanon, and seek to advance the democratic principles. Great. They forgot Iran. They forgot Iran. Oh, boy, they forgot Iran. Now, that was actually the best part, is they were supporting people protesting for democracy here in Belarus, Hong Kong, Venezuela, and Lebanon. I don't know who wrote that part of the statement. Clearly not Justin Trudeau. But that part was good. Now, it left out Iran, who had just murdered Navid Afektari, the popular wrestler, also murdered 63 Canadians earlier this year, and Justin Trudeau literally bowed down to Javed Zarif, the propaganda minister, because he is a sickening, spineless weasel, allegedly. Actually, not allegedly. Justin Trudeau is literally a weasel, literally an animal, the weasel, and I don't mean a human being. And if you're questioning me in court, what are you saying? Are you saying this? Yes, it's me. I'm saying this. I'm literally saying that he is literally a weasel, and there's no evidence to prove that he's human. Get me on that one. Idiots. All right. Sorry for this getting a bit meta on everyone. All right. Today we celebrate the milestone in Canadian history, democracy, by marking 100 years since the creation of Elections Canada, the longest-standing nonpartisan electoral commission in the world, except when we got to put pressure on Jody Wilson-Raybould. Today, Elections Canada continues to ensure that federal electoral process in Canada remain transparent, except in the Liberal Party, and the Conservative Party too, and all of them. I have nothing good to say about any of our political parties. On behalf of the Government of Canada, I invite Canadians to reflect on our democratic traditions and values and bring us together by helping engage in democratic process. We help safeguard our institutions and protect democracy worldwide. So let's meditate. What are we doing right now? Reflecting. We're reflecting, but everyone, I want you to meditate. Say some alms. Now, democratically, is Parliament democratic? I'm reflecting here, because the way Canada works is we all federally, in our ridings, elect a MP. An MP stands for Member of Parliament. They then go to the Parliament, which comes from the French word parlement, to speak. Then in the Parliament, they talk to each other, representing the Canadians who democratically elected them to help us decide how to run the country in the future. This is a nice reflection. So Parliament in Canada, I would argue, is one of our democratic institutions. I would actually even argue it's the fundamental democratic institution, the Parliament of Canada. Now, Justin Trudeau shut down the Parliament in the middle of a scandal, on the WE scandal. That doesn't seem very transparent, right? And that doesn't seem very democratic if he's just shutting down Parliament so no one can question him on any of his nonsense. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV. But that doesn't seem too democratic to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Liberal Party and Gerald Butts and Navdeep Bains and Katie Telford and Rob Silver and Aaron O'Toole and Ahmed Hussein and all the other leftists in Canadian government and Jagmeet Singh can explain to me why Parliament is not a democratic institution and we should monitor online hate speech. And if you're mad because I lumped Aaron O'Toole in with them, now, I get it. You might hate Justin Trudeau as much as I do, and you want him out of Canada as much as I do. And I do too. And maybe you're saying, Daniel, the segment you just did is a reason why we need Justin Trudeau. He doesn't respect freedom of speech. I agree. However, you have to then ask yourself the question, why is Aaron O'Toole spending his time this week trying to help organizations reinstitute Section 13 of the Human Rights Code, which was the online hate speech charter? Why would Aaron O'Toole want stronger laws on online hate speech? Why would Aaron O'Toole benefit from laws in Canada that could say that people aren't allowed to say things online? Is there anyone in this room who was sued for making a video that connected Aaron O'Toole and his softness on Muslim Brotherhood front groups like Islamic Relief Canada? Who could that be? Who could that be? Oh, that was me. Oh, that was me. So if this issue is important to you, it's important to me, but it's not important to Aaron O'Toole. And if you think the man who has a history of being a red Tory all of a sudden pretended to be a true blue conservative for about 4 months, has hardcore green energy carbon tax advocates on his chief strategist team. The man Patrick Brown named as the person who put forward his green energy carbon tax plan, Dan Robertson, is now head of Aaron O'Toole's strategies. He's on Aaron O'Toole's team. Why is he there? He must know, don't worry, Aaron O'Toole's against carbon tax. Don't worry, Aaron O'Toole is very pro-free speech. He's against cancel culture. Well, why is he trying to reinstitute online hate speech laws? Why is he suing me? Who knows? He's not suing me. Why is his campaign chair suing me? Who knows the answer to these questions? I do. It's because Aaron O'Toole is a duplicitous liar and a leftist. Fun, fun, fun. All right, again, this episode of Uninterrupted is sponsored by www.don'tsuedanielanymore.com, and they are our new sponsors of the show. They're a great organization. It's comprised of everyone in the world who is not suing me or my family in frivolous lawfare for making videos that pertain to the Canadian election. It's a really great cause. If you could just go to that website that doesn't exist yet and just decide to not sue me, that would be great. And if you do want to help me with the people who are suing me, you can donate in the GoFundMe below. And as always, you got to like the video and share the video, subscribe to the thing, and click the bell. And you know the internet like the thing. I'm the internet talking guy. I'm begging you to like or push the buttons to help me out in the algorithm because I have to. Okay. Moving on. So this week was great news for everyone who likes peace, prosperity, and less nonsense in the world, as the Abrahamic Accords were signed between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, moderated by the United States of America, and Donald Trump. This is an excellent foreign policy achievement. Trump claims that 9 more countries, including Saudi Arabia, will be signing on to this. This is fantastic news for the Middle East and even the Western world, because I'll get into it soon, and we'll see examples of it very quickly, of different, radicalism in universities around this issue that had been funded a lot by Arab Gulf money that is no longer coming in. The problems now are mainly Qatar, Iran, and Turkey. Big one funding Qatar. But who's happy about this? Western democracies, Americans, me, Arabs, Israelis, Jews, non-crazy Muslims. Everyone's very, very happy. Now, who's unhappy? Let's pull up who's unhappy. Who doesn't care about peace? And that would be the organization known as CARE. Oh, no, that's Layla Khalid, right? What's the one before that? Yes, we don't recognize Israel. So here's an article where they outline the group of the Center for American Islamic Relations, CARE, also known as a terrorist organization in the United Arab Emirates, and a Muslim Brotherhood front group in many court documents. Okay, so CARE, the USA, is very upset with this peace deal. Who else is upset? Hamas, Hezbollah, Turkey, Iran, Ken Roth of Human Rights Org, maybe Amnesty International, and a bunch of screaming leftists who don't know anything about anything. Now, I can understand why CARE doesn't like this peace deal. They probably don't like the United Arab Emirates because the United Arab Emirates says the organization CARE is a terrorist organization. Yes, terrorist with a capital T, lowercase errorism. Now, I get it. You might not like them. And they probably don't like Jews too much because, well, they're not big fans of Jews, as it is been shown in court documents in the United States in the Holy Land Foundation trial for terrorism funding, CARE being listed as an unindicted co-conspirator, and their current head, Nawed Ahmed, I can't remember his name, but current thing. Now, there is a meeting called the Philadelphia meeting where the FBI wiretapped the Islamists there, and they determined that CARE was founded in 1994 by members of the Islamic Association for Palestine, which was a Hamas front group, for the purpose of pushing Hamas's narrative in North America. And Hamas is the militant wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, so they're a Muslim Brotherhood affiliated group. That's CARE. CARE also had a Canadian division called CARE Canada. However, when all this started going out, magically, name change. And now it's okay. It's currently known as the National Council of Canadian Muslims, the NCCM, run by my friend and passionate lover, Mustafa Farouk. Mustafa, I love you and I miss you. Please unblock me on Twitter so we can rekindle our relationship. Now, if you don't know who Mustafa Farouk is, you might remember him from such hit songs as Omar Carter is a Canadian hero who did nothing wrong, and I think we should establish a caliphate in Canada. Articles on both of those, they're his greatest hits. Now, getting back to who doesn't like it, we have these organizations, and they're in Canada, and they're in the United States, and they have been listed in Canadian Senate testimony as a Muslim Brotherhood front group. Why is the Muslim Brotherhood hating peace? No, serious question that we have to answer. Why is the Muslim Brotherhood against peace in the Middle East? Is because they live and thrive off division and chaos. That's what they need. Right? According to the Muslim Brotherhood's own internal documents, yes, we've talked about the fact that they openly want to destroy Western civilization, but some of their tactics, according to them, are making the Muslim community feel more alienated and pushing Islamophobia on them, right? Because if you have Muslims in North America feeling like they're under threat, feeling like they don't belong in this system, feeling like there's an external enemy, it's easier to galvanize them under your radical ideology and push them against someone else, which is why Hamas hates peace. Which is why, when Bahrain and the UAE were signing these deals, terrorist groups and Islamic Jihad and Hamas started launching rockets into Israel because they want, now, what their goal is to not, I mean, they're trying to kill, but what they want is Israel to fire back on them so they could say, look, Israel's bombing us. They say peace, but they're bombing our poor innocent bomb factories. Why, why? This poor soul used to make and fire rockets for 15 years, and the Israelis destroyed his rocket murder business. Jews, right? So the Muslim Brotherhood and their Palestinian activists claim, oh no, peace is so bad. Look at who Trump's making angry. The radical left, the Muslim Brotherhood, Iran, Turkey, basically the Muslim Brotherhood. And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing, All right, so here's why it's really good for the Middle East. And here's the sort of past present. So past, the Middle East, if, let's say 5 years ago, if someone said we need peace in the Middle East and they were talking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, they didn't really know what they're talking about. The real Middle East, historically, has been a Cold War between Iran and Saudi Arabia since 1978. Okay? And Iraq was not so much a country as a buffer, right? The goal of Iraq was to be a buffer between Saudi Arabia and Iran, which is why it was unwise to just invade it willy-nilly, let's say. Okay, so you have that sort of dynamic of Iran versus Saudi Arabia, and then sort of, to an extent, you just had Israel and the Palestinians, and it was more Israeli-Arab conflict going on for a while. Now, this deal is historic, because in 1967, when Israel took control of the West Bank and Gaza, by the way, the founding organization of the Palestinian government, the PLO, explicitly says the West Bank and Gaza are not part of Palestine, Article 24. It was a wider Arab-Israeli conflict. After the 1967 war, Israel offered every single one of their gains back to the Arabs in exchange for a peace deal. And this has always been the deal with Israel. We acknowledge you and your right to exist, you acknowledge us and our right to exist, and there will be peace. After they won the war, after they took all the ground, they offered everything back in exchange for peace. They were rejected in Khartoum, which is in Sudan, which also just started to normalize ties with Israel right now. The three no's: no recognition, no negotiation, no peace. That was the deal. No, we're going to kill you all. So years ago, when Trump started getting into office, this started to unravel, because Obama had done the stupidest thing ever imagined, called the Iran deal, which really should be called World War III in 20 years. And I've talked about how stupid it is, but all you need to know is it pretty much empowered Iran. They just got nothing. They dumped a bunch of cash on Iran and let them build nukes. And this scared everyone in the region, because Saudi Arabia knows that Israel doesn't care about Saudi Arabia. Israel just kind of wants to be left alone and live together. They never really tried to do anything to Saudi Arabia because they don't really care. And Saudi Arabia knew this, but it was just a thing. Like, we're an authoritarian government, I don't know, just yell, "Gur Jews." Right? But now Iran became a real threat. So you had this sort of shocking moment where you had this massive, massive blunder of American foreign policy known as the Biden-Obama era. And if you don't believe me, just go to the time that Barack Obama went to Saudi Arabia. He was talking. The President of the United States of... Gary, you'll see this clip. Look it up, where Barack Obama, the President of the United States, is talking in Saudi Arabia, addressing an audience, and the camera pans to him and then pans up to the ceiling while the President of the United States is talking. They did not like this guy. They did not respect him. He didn't deserve any respect either. So then you had Trump come in, and Trump said a few things right. Now, here's where people have to learn. This is where I get a bit neocon, we'll say. I mean, I have my libertarian, I have my liberal, classical liberal, all this. This is where I get a bit neocon on foreign policy. You cannot bring peace without a strong arm in the Middle East. It's not how it works. It's not how these places work. Not everywhere is North America. I say this all the time. Canada and the Netherlands can secure a peace deal, a treaty, based off mutual respect and shared values, and just being friends and drinking buddies. And that's great. That is not how the Middle East works. They respect a strong arm. So people are saying things like, oh, Obama delivered drones to the Middle East and Trump delivered peace. It's not true. Trump did a lot of drone strikes when he got in, but this is good, because he finished those wars. Instead of going in half-assed to Syria and just boop, 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 when you're forced to, and then restricting it, and then like taking away rules of engagement, making it hard for your soldiers to do anything. Trump just said, okay, if we're going to do this, let's just go heavy. Let's win this war, right? Let's force the jihadists out. Let's show strength. Let's be in a position of power, right? If the Iranians attack our embassy, we send troops to defend it and push them away, so people learn that if they mess with America, they go die. And for the most part, people in the Middle East finally looked and said, if we mess with Donald Trump, we go die. And they decided, know what we should not do? Mess with America. Why? You gon' die. So they learned that, and this brought people to the table. Now, this is where the Israelis and the Arab Gulf states, yes, I know my Persian fans, it's the Persian Gulf, but I'm going to refer to Arab states along the Persian Gulf. I know, but whatever. So the Arab Gulf states here, they realized our real enemy is the Islamic Republic in Iran. They're crazy, right? They're sponsoring Houthis, they're firing missiles at us. So they realized Israel's not the problem. Now, you might just say it's cosmetic, because UAE and Israel had relations for all the time, but it's really, really good for Western civilization that this happened because of the leaking in propaganda war. Because now that the UAE has signed this peace deal and made it public, it's not like they actually have to be openly and defend this position, right? Now when the Palestinians say death to the UAE, death to Bahrain, Bahrain will say, shut up. When Saudi Arabia and Morocco sign on to this deal, they'll go, shut up. Right? So it won't let them push this propaganda. And then you've had years and years and years where they've pushed this radical Islamist propaganda into our school system, right? And this is mixed with the radical left. And my problem here with the radical Islamist theory is it helps push critical race theory and radical leftist, neo-Marxist, communist nonsense. And this has been taken over the universities. And this is to the point we're at. So now bring up the Leila Khalid thing on this issue. So at San Francisco State University, which is basically the Gaza Strip, they've invited terrorist Leila Khalid, terrorist hijacker Leila Khalid, currently in Jordan. All right, she hijacked a plane full of Israelis twice, right, got arrested. She is still a member of the PFLP, which is a listed terrorist organization in Canada, the EU, and America. So according to America, she's a terrorist, and this is the person they bring to speak at San Francisco State University. Now, I'm all for free speech, but you invited a terrorist, an actual terrorist. Like, when you scream about Trump is a Nazi and a fascist, this is a Jew-murdering terrorist. A Jew-murdering terrorist. that you invited to speak. An actual, convicted, unapologetic, still active, practicing terrorist. Now, I get it if you want to invite something controversial, but San Francisco State University, I guarantee you, would not let me speak. And I'm not a terrorist. This is ridiculous, okay? So here we have it now that our institutions are so corrupted by anti-Israel, anti-Zionist rhetoric that they'll invite literal terrorists to speak to your children, right? And how do they get terrorists to speak there, right? Because Leila Khalid, right? This is how you guise it. Hijack and PFLP. What do they call it? Khalid will speak as part of a September 23rd event organized by the University Departments of Arab and Muslim Ethnicities and Diaspora Studies on teaching Palestine. You know what? Honestly, no jokes. If you're going to be teaching Palestine from the Palestinian perspective, the best person to talk to is actually a terrorist. Whose discussion is titled, Whose Narratives, Gender, Justice, and Resistance? A conversation with Leila Khalid. Again, gender, justice, and resistance. So throwing in some gender, quasi-feminist nonsense, right? I killed Jews for feminism, guys. Hitler's women, right? We had Hitler Youth, now we have Hitler feminism, right? Put on your high heels, go to Auschwitz, gas the Jews to death, feminism, yay! Terrorist, a literal terrorist. Need I say more? So here's the great thing about Donald Trump. He has reset the game, and we have a very different Middle East. It is no longer just Saudi Arabia, Iran, trying to out-crazy each other. We're now trying to de-crazy each other, which is going slowly but steadily. So the new alliance is actually kind of the very, very old alliance, but it's sort of Muslim Brotherhood Islamists versus, we'll say, monarchists, and not that. It's basically the Muslim Brotherhood and their friends versus everyone who ain't about that lifestyle. So on this side, you now have Iran, which is the number one progenitor of, we'll say, terrorist nonsense. You have Turkey, you have Qatar. Under that, I guess you could probably say Pakistan. Technically, Pakistan isn't in the Middle East. It's the Indian subcontinent. But let's not kid ourselves. When we talk about the Middle East, what do we really mean? We mean it's the Jews and the region where people hate Jews, but are now making peace with Jews, and that's big. So you have Pakistan and Malaysia, maybe, who are the sort of quasi-in, quasi-out there. The real problem is Qatar is all the money. If I was president of the United States, I would shut down all foreign funding from Qatar on everything. I would just shut down Qatar. Shut it down. Just boycott Qatar. And cut the money out from radicals, and they have a much harder time. Stop the money flow. Money helps this all spread. Now, the other thing is, of course, sanctions on Iran. Turkey is the biggest growing threat, because we've talked about Turkey before, and we're going to get into it a bit later because they've been elected as the new head of the General Assembly for friggin' United Nations. Oh, God, United Nations. But on the other side, you have sort of the Saudi-led. And we're back from magical technical difficulties. I blame Justin Trudeau, or maybe the Ayatollah, who knows. So we've talked about the Islamist faction in the Middle East. So now you have the non-super Islamists, which is led by Saudi Arabia, which again, yes, they probably collaborated with Al-Qaeda to 9/11 the place. But in recent years, they've stopped terrorism funding because they realized that's a bad idea, because when you fund terrorism, you get terrorists, they come back to your country, and they go boom. So you learn when people go boom around you, not good. Don't go boom. Kids, message from Daniel out there, don't go boom. Now, also under that, you have, the Gulf states. You have Oman, Bahrain, UAE. Now, the UAE is pretty good on securities and whatever. Oman will probably be the next country to sign into the peace accords. Morocco looks likely, maybe Sudan. Right? Trump says 9 different countries, and then you also have Israel and America. Right? And this is good. And the reason why you're seeing more rapid peace is because these countries are showing a strong arm. They're showing a strong, united alliance. Because the way the Middle East works, and I try and say this to Justin Trudeau all the time, in the Middle East, strength is strength and weakness is weakness. Diversity is not our strength in the Middle East. That means nothing to people. Strength is strength. How strong you are is how strong you are. How weak you are is how weak you are. So that is the new Middle East. It's now a Muslim Brotherhood Islamist faction against what is not that. And the Muslim Brotherhood is supported by global leftists. So if you have someone who has opinions like, oh my God, I just took a course at university called gender studies or global development studies, and I think that's the opinion of the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay? So that's the new Middle East. And it's good because it's shown that if you show strength, peace will come. Right? All this sort of capitulation, you want a free ice cream with your suicide vest? That's not how you make peace. You gotta take out the terrorists. You gotta kill them terrorists. That's what you gotta do to terrorists. Okay. All right. So let's move on to Black Lives Matter, because they are what a fun organization they are. So here's a video in Canada I want to pull up of kids just surrounding and harassing an RCMP officer. So you can see it here. I mean, and the video will progress, and I'll let some voice go here. But what we're seeing here is a culture building in the West, where people just have really, really bad ideas because they're imbibing sort of American leftist propaganda on race and policing. And I'm not going to go out here and say there is no racial disparities on anything in between polices. If you look at the studies, whites are more likely to experience deadly force from officers per police interaction than blacks, but blacks are more likely to experience excessive force than whites. We can break this down. We could talk about arrests for marijuana by ethnicity and how that needs to stop, although marijuana is legal now, but you get it. I'm not saying there's no issues, but here's the problem, is when kids are learning to swarm and attack police and not sort of respect the officer and de-escalate situations, people are going to get killed. And I know a lot of police officers who are very afraid to have to be in this situation where they're afraid that if they see someone who is of a visible minority in Canada with a gun pointed at them about to use a deadly force, that no matter what they choose, their life will be over. In the sense that if they don't do anything, they'll die. And if they do kill someone, even who is a clear violent threat, it might, ruin their lives. Because do you really believe that Jagmeet Singh would not try and name and shame the officer in any situation? Let's say, because he did it with the Regis Paquette, when the investigation found that no, it's a tragic story. She had mental health issues. Police came for a spot check to her house. She ended up trying to escape on the balcony and died. She wasn't pushed off the balcony, right? Maybe the police overreacted, scared her, went to the balcony. We don't really know, right? But that's not murder. Jagmeet Singh thought it was, just because the police were in the area. So Canada is sort of primed for this. And I blame Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter Toronto especially. This is the worst organization ever. Remember Black Lives Matter Toronto when they burst onto the scene by protesting the most racist institution in the world, the Gay Pride Parade? Yes, what is more racist than the Gay Pride Parade? And what was Black Lives Matter doing? They were an honorary guest. This is why you don't let radicals into your house. This is exactly piggybacks on what I just said about the Middle East. Okay, crazy people you can't reason with crazy. Strength and weakness. So when the reasonable people behind the Pride Parade said, oh yeah, Black Lives Matter, you're not gay, but you can be an honorary Pride float, whatever. Oh, so you're acknowledging our rhetoric is true then, and our fundamental assumptions about the universe are true. Okay, well then you're racist, because we believe everyone's racist and we're boycotting this. And they sat down, and they stopped the Pride Parade for hours, and even the media at the time was like, these people are crazy. A little bit crazy, right? No, but they were protesting the slaughter of black transgender women by the police. Now, I looked up the stats and I said, there's like 22 police shootings in Canada this year. You know, most of them are like clearly not against black people, right? You know, when the guy's name was like John Smith and he's out in like Nova Scotia, it's like you can pretty much assume that wasn't a black guy. You know, there was like 11 cases identified that people who racially ambiguous or black could have been them. And then of that, how many of that were justified police killings? Right, we don't know. So maybe there was like one or two, but in terms of the epidemic of slaughter of black transgender women by police, zero that year. Right? And I love Black Lives Matter so much because like the person who co-founded it, Yusra Kigali, she's just a crazy person. Does anyone remember when she went on in the march and called Justin Trudeau a white supremacist terrorist? Justin Trudeau is a lot of things. He is not a white supremacist terrorist. He's an idiot. He's a race baiter. He's a terrorism enabler. His brother works for a terrorism regime. He's never met a terrorist group he hasn't, cooperated with. He loves the Muslim Brotherhood front groups. So does Yusra Kigali. So does Yusra Kigali at the moment. But he's not a white supremacist terrorist. He's even admitted to the world that he's a genocidal maniac. He's not a genocidal maniac. So I understand Yusra because like Justin Trudeau claims that he's running a genocide right now against the Canadian Indigenous people. His claim, not mine. He put forward the finding. He said he claims to be in charge of a country that's currently committing a genocide. He has admitted that he is currently overseeing a genocide. I don't think that's true, evidenced by the fact that no one is taking him seriously, especially the Canadian courts and Justin Trudeau himself. Yusra Kigali is also the person who, posted the, oh Allah, please lend me the strength not to kill all white men, and had crazy theories about how melatonin in your skin makes you a better, more empathic person. I love this woman. She's a nut job. But her organization is destroying the fabric of Canadian society because you can't teach your kids, you kids out there, or you parents of kids, and you should know, you should not do that with police officers because the escalation of force in a situation where an officer is armed is ultimately deadly. And I explain this because you might not have a weapon on you, right? You just might have my awesome karate skills. But you take my awesome karate skills, right? You put it in a police officer. If I'm able to momentarily incapacitate a police officer, I can take their gun and now I have lethal force, right? That's always on the table when there's any type of force being used against a police officer. Because if you manage to, say, incapacitate a police officer, arm them, stun them, knock them anyway, you could then take their gun, and then the force on the table is lethal, right? So there's always that calculation in the back of police mind. And that also goes into the law, right? But now you have a culture where people are being brought up to sort of be a hero, get in there when the police are doing something, no matter what. If you jump in 10 minutes after the fact, grab your phone and start harassing police officers, and that's going to get people killed. And then the second someone in Canada dies, even if it's a legitimate shooting, people are going to go crazy. There's going to be riots. The left is just waiting to destroy Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. Just waiting, salivating for the excuse to riot and burn down our cities. And you can't have that. Okay. Now, tangentially related, America, land of the free, home of the brave, Trump of the Trump. Now, for the longest time, Trump's poll numbers were going down and down and down and down, and Biden was winning in many different places. This has taken a sharp turn because now, now Donald Trump is actually beating Joe Biden in some national polls. And again, polls don't mean anything, but if I can explain this to Joe Biden, or a Harris administration along with Joe Biden, as you've learned, people don't like it when you burn down their house or business. It's really hard to explain. Okay, your left is Joe Biden. Okay, it's hard. Okay, people work really hard to accrue enough money from the job they have to either buy a home. And people, both men and women and transgender people, a man usually likes to find a woman and a husband and a wife, and they'll get together and they'll have things called children. And in general, people usually love their family. So when you burn down their house, right, that's where their family lives. And believe it or not, burning things down is, one, dangerous because it can actually kill people. If you light people on fire, they die. So you then destroy their homes and you make them feel unsafe, and they're homeless. And they actually don't like that. Now, you might say, okay, but I'll just burn down their business. Well, when you burn down someone's business, this is actually how they make money to pay for the things like food and clothing and housing for their family. And people, again, don't like being poor and destitute. So when you have a vice presidential candidate in Kamala Harris who helped bail out the rioters in Minnesota, who then came back and helped burn down more businesses, you're taking a pro-burning people's stuff down approach. Now, who's those people and what's their stuff? Those are American people, and that is their stuff. They don't like it to be burned down because they like their stuff. That's why they got their stuff. So when you burn down their stuff, and then you're a political party and support the people burning down their stuff, you're going to be less popular because 9 out of 10 dentists agree that burning down their office is bad. And also brush your teeth and floss and mouthwash and overpay your orthodontist. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. So that's very interesting. So we have Donald Trump climb back in the polls. So what is the plan to get Trump out of the polls? Well, it is fires. And I've done this video before. We had to do this at the beginning of the year. Call back to January. Do you remember the beginning of January when Bolsonaro in Brazil was literally lighting the entire Amazon on fire? The only way fires started is because Bolsonaro took his cigarette. By the way, he had a twirly mustache at this point. So he was smoking a cigarette, cackling maniacally while twirling his mustache and just flicking cigarettes and then just gasoline fires, just causing all the Amazon to go down. Now, the other way fires start is through climate change. Not arson, climate change. Now, I was out there showing all the charts saying, here's the average rate of forest fires in Brazil. It's actually below average this year. You know, the only reason we're talking about it is because now Brazil has a right-wing government and the media is using it as a club to hammer them. This is what the media was trying to do as of last year. They're trying to make this connection because they love science, right? And Donald Trump and the Republicans are anti-science, and you're anti-science. Yet, what they are trying to do is claim that increase in fires is because of climate change. Now, are there ecological disasters we need to address? Yes. Are there environmental issues we need to address? Yes. But this is the nonsense of climate change. This is where if you don't recycle, you know, California burns. This is like the wacky connections, right? If you turn on your air conditioning machine, there's going to be hurricanes in Morocco or something. Like this is the climate change narrative, right? Instead of like, if you pollute this river, it will be polluted. It destroys the water quality. Don't pollute the river. Let's clean up the river, which is something I get behind. Instead, climate change is all focused on, you know, if cows continue to fart, then there's hurricanes and forest fires, and that's silly. Now, the way they're trying to push this is it makes some logical sense. It's a human fallacy that they're relying on, right? It's the connection of fire equals hot, and I am here to tell you, as a registered talking guy, I'm not licensed yet. As a lawyer, yes, as a lawyer, as a legal law practicing lawyer who knows all the laws. Yeah, use that against me in a court of law. Why don't you? I'm here to tell you that, yes, fire is hot, right? So if you make the connection that, okay, climate change is making the world hotter, and then if the world is hotter and fire is hot, well, more things should be on fire. And that's some faulty logic because the temperature at which fires start is much, much higher. Now, what they're going to say is, well, yes, because if it's, 4 degrees hotter this day, it rains less, the forest will be more dry and then more likely to combust. Right? That's what they're trying to go with here. But instead, you can just look at, hey, maybe that's very poor fire mismanagement. And there's been forest fires for years, and they're getting worse. A lot of that has to do with the regulations and the fact that California took away the controlled burns. You can't do controlled burns anymore, which is something that basically, it's something. I mean, the left should be on this, right? Because we're always talking about how indigenous people knew the land a lot better and discovered ways of whatever, which in this case is totally true. Because indigenous peoples in areas where forest fires are common knew that you had to sometimes do a controlled burn of the bush, or else the whole thing goes up in flames. Right? This has been common knowledge for years, but we don't do this anymore in California. And again, every fire is because of Trump and because of climate change. And this is literally the Democratic platform and the liberal platform, and every Green Party across the world is vote for us, and we will stop all the hurricanes and fires. And if there still are hurricanes and fires, then it's the fault of whatever previous conservative Republican administration, because magic, science, pizzazz. So expect the fires to be a big thing going into November, the fact that there's any fire anywhere in the world. Expect any fire anywhere in the world to be covered, to be done with this is climate change, and then if you think that those fires aren't caused explicitly by climate change, you will be a science denier, despite all the scientific evidence to the contrary. All right. Our final story tonight, we will talk about the United Nations and Turkey, because I love them and hate them. So I might have jumped the gun. So we have the tweet here, and this is from Hillary Neuer, who has just said that, you have it, Turkey, and this is the man, you can see his picture being elected to the head of the Human Rights General Assembly, the UN's General Assembly. This will be leading it, and yes, he is a denier of the Armenian genocide. Now, I think that's a fantastic role for, no one is a better representative than a Muslim Brotherhood guy who denies the Armenian genocide, right? Maybe if he actually committed a genocide against like different people and then denied it, maybe he'd be more qualified, but hopefully we're running out of genocidal lunatics to run the UN. Callbacks to everything we talked about. Again, we talked about Turkey is now an Islamist dictatorship. We've talked about the fake coup and Erdogan. We've gone over that a while, and their close ties with Iran and Qatar and Malaysia, and how they're working for the union of crazy people globally, or working with, right? Genocide denial, obviously bad. And you have the United Nations, who has the 2030 Sustainable Development Plan. Now, if we can go back all the way to the beginning, remember Justin Trudeau for International Democracy Day wanted to promote the United Nations, an organization that doesn't really respect democracy? When will be the next legitimate election in Turkey? I'm wondering, will Erdogan win like 97% of the vote, or will he win like 103% of the vote? That's what we're trying to find, that 6% swing that I just can't figure out. So Turkey, which is going down an Islamo-fascist, Muslim Brotherhood affiliated rabbit hole here, will be in charge of the United Nations General Assembly, which will be in charge of sustainable development in Canada. Will Turkey be held to the same standards as Canada? I do not know. All right. I'm not sure how long we've been doing because of different technical difficulties, but I think this is a good place to end it for this week. I think we might have run a bit short, but who cares? You know, you're here, I'm here, we're all having fun. I'll chalk up this week. We'll say, we'll blame Walid Suleiman and Aaron O'Toole for suing me. Not enough time to get things together. So, if you like the show, please share, subscribe, click the bell, do the thing of the notification. You know, tell your friends, tell your enemies about the show. If you want to donate to the Patreon or the GoFundMe or the PayPal, or you just want to give me a high five, then you know, just high five an envelope and send it to address not found, because I don't want to tell the Muslim Brotherhood where I live. Just high five someone and tell them to find me and high five me. Get a tattoo of my face onto your face if you're a real big fan of the show. And just have a great week. And again, remember, please don't sue me, and I'll see you next Wednesday.